Hi, my name's Cosmo, and today we're going to make some smoked cheesy kielbasa sausage. We're going to use pork shoulder and some pork belly to add a little bit of fat into that sausage, and then a spice mix of oregano, garlic, black pepper, salt, and a little bit of curing salt. Fresh ground pork lasts, let's say, 6 to 8 days in the fridge. Adding this curing salt to that will give it about 28 days. It keeps the meat from oxidizing and turning gray or brown. It keeps nice, fresh, kind of pink pork color throughout the cooking process and throughout the time that it spends in your fridge, in the smoker, wherever you put it. This one we're going to do in beef middles, so a thicker sausage. We're gonna smoke it in our vertical smoker. We're gonna put some cheese in it. It's gonna be a nice, thick kielbasa with some ooey gooey cheese in there. So let's see how we do. First things first, we're gonna cut up our pork belly. So we're making a small batch, not too big, a 7.5 pound recipe. We're gonna cut up 2 pounds of pork belly and 5.5 pounds of shoulder. So when you're cutting chunks up for sausage, I think a really important thing is, how big should I cut it? Should I cut them, 1 inch by 1 inch, 2 inch by 2 inches? It all depends on your grinder. If you have a small tabletop grinder, you might want to cut them smaller than this. Today, we're going to use the 1/2 horsepower meat grinder. It's got a nice big funnel and grinding tube. So we're cutting these, 1.5 to 2 inch square pieces, and that'll go just fine through that grinder. All right, I've got 2 pounds. Next thing we're gonna cut up is pork shoulder. This is a pretty classic cut, Boston butt. Basically has the lower part of the leg removed, and then it goes all the way up into the shoulder and kind of cuts off at about the 4th rib into the neck. So you have your copa, or your pork collar, your pork shoulder up here. That's an extension of the pork loin. So your chops kind of come up, and this is where the pork chop ends and goes into the shoulder and then into the neck. First thing I'm gonna do is take that scapula out, get all the bones out. So I'm gonna come up, we'll try and do it backwards so everybody can see. So basically this is the shoulder blade of the animal, and it's a very odd shaped bone if you've never done it. And it doesn't matter the animal. It could be a cow, it could be a deer, it could be a pig. They're all shaped the same. They're all weird. It's flat on one side and it comes out to a point on the opposite side. So it kind of makes for a pain when you are butchering, but you get used to it and you learn some tricks how to cut it. So we won't waste that. We'll save that for later to make stock, something like that with, but remove the scapula. And now I've got a boneless Boston butt, and I'm gonna cut 5.5 pounds off of this. So again, same kind of thing. I'm just gonna trim it into kind of 1.5 by 1.5 inch cubes. Everyone has a preferred knife they like to use. I love a curved 6-inch stiff boning knife. It's my favorite to use. Some people like them longer, some people like them more flexible, some people like a straight blade. For me, this is the most ergonomic shape. It's my favorite meat knife that they have. I can hold it with a pistol grip. I can butcher whole animals, smaller cuts, lambs, beef, pig, boar, venison, doesn't matter. This is my go-to knife for all butchering. One thing you want to watch out for, especially with pork, commercial pork, you don't see it too much in wild game, but glands. You don't want to get glands in your sausage. They look like little, this is actually super nice and clean pork, so why talk about it? But important, glands are in a lot of pork shoulder, especially near the neck and the jowl, and you want to be aware of it because if that gets into your sausage, it can make the sausage bitter. So really important to remove and cut out any glands you see. If I find one on my journey through this pork shoulder, I'll make sure to show you. One more, 5.5 pounds. There we go. And now we're gonna mix up our spices. I'm just gonna mix it all by hand really well. Again, everybody's got their own methods. I like to let my meat sit for 24 hours before grinding it. What happens when salt especially starts to agitate the proteins, it'll actually release a lot of the water molecules in it and you'll find wet. So if you ever season a steak and put it in the fridge, or you season some meat to grind and you go and you'll notice in the maybe the bottom of the plate you had your steak on, or the bottom of the bowl you're mixing your sausage in, it's almost like a little puddle of kind of bloody liquid. that will actually come out as the proteins get edited and get back into the sausage once so you don't lose any of that water, that water weight and that meat and that flavor by letting it sit a day. So we're gonna let this sit overnight in the fridge with a little bit of saran wrap on top, and we're gonna finish it tomorrow. All right, so we've let our kielbasa sausage marinate overnight, and now we're gonna grind it. We're gonna use our 1/2 horsepower meat grinder with the 5/16 plate, a bit of a finer grind on the kielbasa, and we're gonna use this to mix and paddle the sausage, get it nice and tight and bound, and we'll add some smoked Gouda to it. Then we're gonna stuff it in beef middles so that we get a nice thick kind of summer sausage shape, and we're gonna smoke it in our vertical smoker. But now we'll get the grinding done. Would you look at that kitten purr, huh? So earlier I cut the chunks about 1.5 inch square. They fit great in this grinder. It's nice wide opening. You don't really need it, but if you cut them a little big or just to get some extra pressure, you can use the plunger as well to kind of get that moving down into the auger and get it toward the blade to start cutting. All right, so we've got our 7.5 pounds of sausage that we marinated yesterday, ground today, getting it into our mixer. And we're gonna add a little over 1 pound of cheese to it. It's gonna be a really rich, creamy, smoky sausage, and we will get mixing. So the key to using the mixer is you want to get a nice tight bound sausage, a nice bouncy sausage. You won't, if you ever buy a sausage somewhere and you put it on the grill and it leaks or it spits fat and it gets very crumbly, it's because they haven't mixed it correctly. They mixed it too much, they undermixed it, something like that. And it's really, really important you get that mix right so you have a nice bouncy texture of your sausage. A little bit of ice water. And then we're just gonna whip that sausage till it's tacky. I always say if you like stick some to the kind of palm of your hand, if you can lift it up and it stays stuck to the hand upside down, you should be good to go. So we'll get it mixing. Some people will even go as far as to put it into a stand mixer and whip it. All right, so we've got a nice tacky sausage. You can see it kind of all sticks together. And like I said, you can kind of form a ball, pop it on the palm of your hand and it sticks. Doesn't fall. Nice and tacky. Created enough myosin. Now we're ready to stuff. So we've got our ground mixed kielbasa. We've got some beef middles that have been soaking in water. They come in a saline solution or packed in salt. So it's really important that think ahead, even a day in advance, soaking your, whether they're hog casings, beef casings, lamb casings, if they're natural, get them soaking in just nice room temp water the day before and throw them in the fridge. It'll make everything a lot easier the next day. Butcher's twine, knife to cut, and then we've got our 5 pound hand crank meat stuffer here. So it comes out really easy. Get everything rigged up before you press anything into it. So get your tube, fit it on, and then we'll just pack as much meat as we can in here and stuff. It might take 2 rounds to do this. It's a 5 pound stuffer. We got about 7.5 pounds of meat, so it might take 2 rounds. Push it as tight as you can. You want to get as little air pockets as possible when stuffing the stuffer. Why? Because when you get air pockets in your sausage, it will create punctures and rips and tears and make everything more difficult. So really important to get as little air as possible. And you'll actually notice to help get rid of air, there's actually a little valve right here on the top of the stuffer so that when you're pushing it down, it doesn't build up pressure and whack the handle, doesn't rip around and hit you in the arm. It's actually built up to release any air and pressure in the tube. So we'll get that locked in. It slides right in. Learn from my mistakes, please, is you want to get this stuffing and you want to get that meat all the way to the very end of the tube before putting your casing on, because again, if you put your casings on the tube and you have it, the sausage isn't all the way through, you start stuffing, you're going to just get filled with air. And we're going to make some probably 12-inch long Hunter kielbasa summer sausages to hang and smoke in the vertical smoker later. So we just pull it on, make sure it goes on nice and straight. If you haven't used beef middles before, they are very thick. So they're actually a little bit more forgiving than lamb or hog casings. You can be a little bit rougher with them, a little bit firmer with them. They won't break as easy, but they're also a little harder to get moving. When smoking, never get too tight. Always leave a little tag at the end. I'll leave about 1 inch, because when you tie off your sausage, if it's too short and you hang it in the smoker, it could fall, could break. The knot could not be quite as tight, and it could slip all the way through, and all of a sudden you open your smoker, the sausages have fallen to the bottom of the ground, and it's really frustrating. So we take our string, tie a nice tight knot. Clean it up. So I'm holding it like this, right? And I'm creating pressure with my thumb and my index finger on the casing. And you want it to fill that casing up, and you want it basically almost as tight as it'll go without breaking. And you're creating pressure with your fingers to make sure it doesn't go too fast, go too slow. So we'll finish tying these at the end. All right, so we've got our stuffed kielbasa. Now we're just gonna tie some loops, finish them off, and then we'll hang them in the smoker. So again, that same leverage you created against the stuffing tube, you wanna do that again at the top of the sausage. You want these to be tight. Give it a little twist. I always think tying beef middles is easier with a friend or a partner, but you can do it yourself. Just is a little bit tighter. So I just do a double hitching there, and then again we're hanging it in the smoker. So what I do, I cut 2 pieces, put them together, tie just a simple knot, and they're ready to hang in the smoker. So we've let our kielbasa sit in the fridge overnight to get nice and dry. Any excess moisture from the casing sitting in water, all that's gone. They're nice and dry and ready for the smoker. We set our vertical Mammoth smoker to 225 degrees. We got that rolling. We're gonna go set these in, probably be about 2 hours in the smoker till they're done, and then we'll taste them. Our kielbasa's been going for about 2.5 hours. It's fully cooked, it's ready to go. So we have our kielbasa that we smoked for about 2.5 hours in our Mammoth vertical smoker. And now we're just gonna cut it open and try it. This is a great sausage. This format of sausage in the beef middles is great. You can take a chunk camping with you. You can eat it around a campfire. You can take it hiking. You can eat it at the office. It's awesome because it's great to eat. It's great to eat cold. It's great to eat hot. And it's just a really nice, easy way to have like a sausage lunch with no bun, no anything like that. So we've got some smoked Gouda in there. You can see it's starting to ooze out. Cut little pucks like that. It's a great shot of the cheese. Nice and juicy, fully cooked. So the awesome thing about that smoker is the quality of the smoke that you get. It's a nice dry smoke. It doesn't come out oily or greasy or watery, and you get a great snap on the sausage, whether it's in the beef middle or the hog casing. It just texturally comes out awesome.